What if you could prove what your gut already knows? In this episode, we talk with a Los Angeles private investigator who has seen it all, from double lives to digital deceit. If you've ever suspected someone wasn't who they said they were, this episode is for you. Have you ever felt something was wrong but couldn't explain it? Like the person you love was slowly chipping away at your sense of self?
We've been there. Different marriages, but to the same man, with the same toxic pattern. But God was still working.
We're Lizzie and Deana, women of faith, survivors, and truth tellers.
Surviving toxic relationships is for any woman stuck in confusion, healing after betrayal, or searching for her voice again.
You are not crazy.
You are deeply loved. Hey everybody, welcome to Surviving Toxic Relationships, and today we are so excited to introduce Ken Childs. Ken is a licensed private investigator out of Los Angeles, California. He has worked for celebrities and has been on Dr. Oz, Dr. Phil, and Access Hollywood. He has also been featured in Los Angeles Magazine, Los Angeles Times, and BuzzFeed. Ken has been in the business for 25 years and has seen it all. He has dealt with everything from crypto con artists that ended in their arrests, along with 6 LASD officers taking plea deals, and to being a victim of smear campaigns, spoofing, swatting, etc. So this is going to be a really exciting and very fascinating show today. Welcome so much, Ken Childs. Great having you here.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
So I know that you and I had chatted a little bit on Podmatch, and I had, kind of let you know that all our listeners know, obviously, that Lizzie and I were married to the same toxic narcissist, me for 27 years, then her for 6 years after. And of course, the big twist in our story is that as Lizzie was leaving him and getting ready to file for divorce, she found a box of cards and letters that showed, because they were dated and there were pictures and everything, that showed that he had been actually dating another woman in another town for almost a year and making a family with her. And so, like I said in our conversation, this would have been amazing to actually have a private investigator, because Lizzie and I set out on our own to find this woman, knowing that our ex liked to choose people that were good people in the community, trustworthy women. And we were just positive that this poor woman had no idea what she's getting into. She probably thought he was a great guy. She probably thought he was single. And so I want to kind of just throw that scenario at you. If we had taken you back in time to that situation and Lizzie had called you and said, hey, I have these suspicions. I think he's been living a double life while we were married. What would it look like if we hired a private investigator for that situation?
So roll back the clock. So yeah, for that particular situation, I would actually have to engage with a little bit more, right? Like, now that you have these letters, or at least you had those letters, right? Some people don't even have that. They just have this inkling. And I would try to drill down on what's sending these signals to you. Why do you think they're cheating? Is it gaps of time that go unexplained? Is it the professional mystery, and maybe some mystery hours at work where you just suddenly can't get a hold of them on a Wednesday for a 4-hour block, and you start to realize that? Or is it a Saturday? I would try to drill into that and find that window of time. And then that's when I would encourage some surveillance, right? Let's see what they're up to. Let's see who they're meeting with, where are they going, and what's taking place. Is he golfing with the boys? Is he at work? Or is he setting up an entirely new life for himself with someone that just has no clue?
So how would you do that surveillance? Where do you even know how to start looking for someone to see what they're up to?
Right. So again, let's say, for example, we would dial that in, right? Lizzie's saying oh, well, this is my work life. This is his work life. And then these are the suspicions I have. And then I would say, okay, well, these are the windows that I'm recommending. Let's literally follow him to work, or let's follow him on a Saturday. Or you used to be churchgoers and suddenly he's no longer going to church. Let's see kind of what that entails, right? Like you're still going to church and he's out. So then I would try to pick up on these things and then we would literally follow them.
So, quick question. When you have these types of situations, obviously there's a lot of thoughts that may go through the person who may be hiring the PI. Do many of them go in denial for a long time, or do they go in accepting that they're probably cheating on them or leading a double life?
I don't know if they suspect double life. And then today, I think things have changed, right? There's just so much more going on. Let's say from the inception of like Facebook. And from there, now cheating is kind of almost defined differently now. Now there's emotional cheating and emotional connections, and then just the simple ability to just reach back to exes or to other friends of friends that, and try to like rekindle things or start things with that connection from the past. So like, times have changed, and so has cheating, and so has the sophistication. So back in the day with Lizzie, I would say, hey, let's just like follow him when he's supposed to be going to work. And then we get him leaving work and then going to an entirely different little household. And now you got this new Molly homemaker walking him to the curb. Where today, now, it's just so much more sophisticated. And when clients call me, I'd say it's like 80% of the time they really know something's going on. Especially women. I think they're just that much more in tune to their senses, to their sensory. Where men, I don't know, we're cavemen still. So I think women will pick up like a scent, or maybe see, the lipstick, dare I say lipstick, or maybe they catch a gym bag and it's, why are these clothes in the gym bag? So women are much more in tune to that stuff and are willing to go out on that limb and say, hey, maybe I do need a pro to help out with this.
So I love that point because I agree. I think there's a lot of virtual cheating, so to speak, where somebody has a second account and they're reaching out to women and, just whatever. Maybe they'll eventually be with this woman, or maybe they're just reaching out and getting, a lot of sex talk or some validation or whatever. Is that something that also a private investigator can help with? Can you track down social media type of cheating, or is that a lot harder to do?
Sadly, it's near impossible, because today these folks, let's just use men for an example, right? Let's just say like a narcissist male. First off, they could be on sugarbabies.com and they're literally soliciting young women. And or there's also kind of, I guess for the lack of better words, sites with escorts on them. So A, they're not going to exactly have their honest true profiles, and B, everybody's there for like discretion. So as far as finding that stuff, it's near impossible. But what you can do is either plan a scenario. Let's say you're trapped in this narcissistic relationship and you think something's going on, and you're feeling really confident that there is another relationship and or possible escorts or hookups or whatever, but you just can't figure in that timing. You can't dial that in. Then what I would ask you to do is figure out a way to create a scenario where you are going to be gone for a couple days. You're going to go and help mom, dad, or siblings, or there's a work trip or something, and insert it in just enough time where it's not so much time that they could like really prepare for it, but it's not so short time where it's shock and awe, right? Let's say you're giving them like 5 days notice. Hey, we're going to company meeting. We're going to be gone for 2 days at such and such resort. Or, hey, I'm going to help my brother, sister, mom with a small medical thing going on. They're going to be out for a couple days. I'm going to go help out. And I would give them 4 or 5 days notice. Because I feel like if they're hot for somebody, that's just enough time to say, hey, are you available? Or, hey, here's some funds. Let's meet at a hotel and do this. And then if there isn't enough time, then that person may not be able to work with them. But if it's so much time, then they have like time to like explore it, really dig into it. And then you got to really keep up with these difficult lies.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Definitely. Well, that's good. That's actually good to know that, Because we always wondered if you could be tracked or your social media could be tracked, because all those truth finders and all those background check type of apps make it sound like they're going to pull up everything they've ever done online. So I always wondered if that was true or if that's just a way of them to get your money.
No, but oddly enough, on the rare side of things, there was a case that I just worked a couple months ago where these two women were considering on getting married and moving in together. And this other gal was in another state and hired us and said, hey, just something doesn't really feel right. The whole money situation doesn't make sense. So this gal was a young woman, high income earner, and so was her partner. But everything that her partner was telling her were just it didn't add up, because she'd kind of come around other family members and then would like subtly bring up her business, and then no one really knew what she was talking about. So she thought, okay, before I change my life and move in with this gal, I'm going to hire a PI and let's really see what she's up to. And so right out of the gate, we ended up following her to, basically she was a masseuse person who specialized with men for 15 minutes at a pop. And with that, so circling back around, so with that, I ran databases and came up with other information from this young woman. And I found an old cell phone number. I ran the cell phone number through Google, and that popped up 2 different escort ads with her pictures. So you never know what you're going to get. So the majority of the time, people are sophisticated enough today to hide it. But then some people may or may not be that sophisticated, and they'll miss something.
Wow. So another thing that we've also seen a lot of with some of the women is they get stalked online and harassed and bullied. Is there some other ways to protect themselves legally in that aspect, or anything that they could do to kind of set themselves in a better spot? I know it's kind of a little off topic, but yet we were talking everything online. I was just kind of curious.
No, this is a great topic. So, a few things. Here's the reality: you can't stop crazy. You just can't. So, that's number one. Number two, protect yourself. I recommend that people have a P.O. box. Everybody should have a P.O. box. And then you go and you change your driver's license number, your driver's license to have that number versus your home address, because you have that option. It's not really talked about, but you have that option. If I held up my driver's license, it would say Ken Childs and then 12345 Main Street. That's actually my business address. So you would have that. And I recommend that everybody do that. And then also get a Google phone number, or you can go and find yourself like an app that'll allow you to use another phone number, especially let's say like those that are dating today, ladies, gentlemen, whatever you're dating. I would go on these apps and I would create a phone number. So that way, if 2, 3 dates into it, that person's a little cray cray, you just literally go in, delete that number, and you're off the hook. They can't get a hold of you. So I would kind of go in with that mindset of a little bit of like protection first. Maybe don't tell them your full name, address, city, all that stuff. Just be a little less revealing about it, but not scary cryptic, but just like, hey, Liz, or whatever. And then they don't think anything's going on because they have your phone number, all that stuff. And then if things go south and they're, well, okay, I'm going to blow this girl's life up. Well, now it's kind of hard to work with because they only have Liz. And then you've deleted that phone number, which comes back dead. So they kind of really don't have anything to work with. The reason why I say change the address on your driver's license is, let's say you go to the bathroom and they rifle through your purse or something, or heaven forbid you lose your purse or wallet or forget it in their car. It doesn't have your personal intel on it. They'll have your name or your driver's license number, but they're not going to have anything else. They can't just drive directly to your house and go scare the shit out of you. So
That's a
I would protect myself with that. Maybe Uber to and from, that way they don't have your car, stuff like that, until you're really confident that this person's not nuts.
No, and that's a really good point, because it kind of triggered a little bit of our scenario. When I was married to our ex, um, he was pretty much living a double life. Well, come to find out later on, she had paid for a background check on him. I never showed up on that background check. So with all that, what would you suggest in those scenarios also if someone did wanna do a background check? Most of the time, we try to grab some of the online platforms, but the fact that I didn't show up and that he was more of a creeper than anybody could have ever imagined, he was that good. Deana showed up, her 4 kids showed up, and I was married to him for 6 years at that point. How did I not show up? That's what blows my mind.
Yeah, honestly, I don't know what to say to that. That's like really interesting. I'd like to think I would have missed that. But the reason why I wouldn't have missed it was I would have ran his information, obviously, and whatever popped up with that. And then what I like to do on top of that is I'll run a search on the address itself. So let's just say an open-ended search on 12345 Main Street, and then it's going to tell me these are the people that are using that address. And then I would put it together, Robert Smith here, and then Lizzie overlaps with the same period of time that and or is showing up current for the last like 5 years, then I could say, hey, it's reasonable to assume that there's something going on, or the intel is telling me this, maybe it's worth looking into. So I hope, or I don't think I would have missed that.
That's a good point. So do you recommend that women that are out there dating think about hiring I mean, do you hire a PI or is there another program that's like easier to access for a situation? Fortunately, we are in an era now where that's really critical to be able to distinguish pretty much the con artists because some of them are really, really good, and it's so hard to filter through that. I'm just curious if there's something you would recommend for people that are in the dating world nowadays.
I I would recommend a background check. I don't know. You have to have some kind of like confidence in yourself and your ability to like choose a good person. And if you're feeling anything, split, leave. You don't owe them anything. Leave the situation. And if you're feeling, okay, well, now it's getting a little serious and things are great. Hey, I just want to do a little cursory background check. I think that's great too. You never know what's going to come up. Sadly, LA County is making it much more difficult to do background checks. Luckily, the database providers that we belong to, they gather up data in mass volume. So we do tend to find things there. And then we then dig a little deeper locally. But LA County and these politicians, whether you're right or left or whatever, you have to look at these initiatives because background checks are being scrubbed. And what I mean by that is, let's say LA County, for example, they know they want felons to have jobs. And so now what they've done is they've removed the date of birth search function. So now when I have to look up Jane Smith, Jack Smith, I can no longer say, hey, Jack Smith at January 1st of 2019, 91, or whatever. Now it's just Jack Smith and 75 records pop up. And I can't tell the difference between looking at these records and who's who, unless they're just so old it doesn't make sense. But then what does that do? That just like still gives me a huge window to look up, let alone if you're looking up someone with a much more common name. Now instead of 10 files, I've got to literally figure out how to comb through 1,400 files. I would recommend doing a background check for the sheer fact that it's affordable. You don't know what's going to come up. Horror story example was I did a search for somebody maybe 2 months ago. And after some digging and then a little bit of Googling, I found the criminal charges. This person was a police officer. He then had a relationship with an underage boy and was terminated. But the problem is, if you looked at the background checks, nothing came up. And I forget like why it didn't come up, but I found it through the termination of the law enforcement. And then I knew, okay, if you're terminated as a law enforcement officer, there's something there. Then I had to go back a couple years before that, knowing that if he was brought up on charges, they would dismiss him, but not fire him. Then it would take another year or two to come to findings, then terminate him. So then I worked backwards, and then I found the charges. After the proceedings, I then found the charges that showed that he had an inappropriate relationship with a minor, and that's why he was terminated as a law enforcement officer. But again, think about it. That gal spent $250 with me to say, whoa, this is scary, pump the brakes, I'm out.
My goodness, $250 to protect, and especially if you had children and this person's coming into a relationship with you.
So scary.
So scary because, I mean, I know from personal experience that a lot of these pedophiles will actually choose women with children, single women with children, and then they will woo the woman and act like they're in love with her and get exactly just to get to the child. And I tell you, that happened, like I said, in a personal situation that I was involved in. This guy, I think he had 4 different women in the church that I attended years ago that honestly every one of them thought, not at the same time, right? He would go from one to one, but every one of them thought that he was madly in love with them and they were in love with him and that he was the one. Boy, I tell you, when the truth came out about what he was actually doing, it was so awful and so eye-opening at the same time to see that somebody would just play the long game, right? They're in your church, you trust them, Ugh.
They're
Anyway,
pre-qualified, right? That's why they do it.
yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And he'd been a leader in that church for like 7 years. It's not like he upstanding in the community, owned a business. Not like some people are looking for the creeper a lot of the times. Whether you're dating an adult or whether you're looking at anybody else, it's like everybody's always looking for the creeper in the bush, the bad guy in the bushes. But I tell you, some of these people are just so good, and they know how to play the long game and just get you into a relationship, so they can do whatever they're going to do.
Yeah. No, it's scary out there.
It really is.
And so the way I'm kind of internalizing it, that it is much better when you start in a relationship that you're like, oh, this could be really good. And yet you have some minor caution, not necessarily completely red flags, to hire a PI versus these other platforms, apps, or whatever that would do the background check for you. I'm kind of gathering that that would be a better fit, especially since I was missed in a background check of 6 years of marriage.
Yeah. Yeah. So my take is like, go with your instincts, right? Protect yourself, go with your instincts. If anything, you're out. You don't owe them anything. Protect yourself, you're out. It's that simple. And then delete all that phone number, all that shenanigans that you had with them. Goodbye. Number 2, things are going well. Take your time. Take your time. I'm not saying let them, but you kind of are because you're spending a little more time, right? Let's go 6 months. Let's go a year and a half. And then throughout that time, if you're feeling like, hey, I really do feel committed and I feel like they're committed to me and that's why I've stuck around this long, either you're good or what's a couple $100? Let's do a background. Try them been verified. If something squirrely comes up there, then maybe call a PI and get that information zeroed in.
I think I would skip the been verified and go right to the PI, honestly. I really would, because I've used these things before, and every one of them gives you different information. You can do 2 or 3 of them, and of course they're going to also make you subscribe now, and you're going to never be able to cancel. And they just wheel you in with all this stuff, but you never know which one's really reliable, which one really has done the homework, and it's just, you don't. And so you really can't pay for 5 or 6 of them. It's not reasonable. And so you don't really know what you're getting. And it's so important, especially these days. It's so important to protect yourself and your family, because you're right. You can't stop crazy, and it's everywhere, unfortunately. Yeah. So my next question, Ken, you obviously are in the field of dealing with manipulators and con artists and scammers. So what would you say are some warning signs that people maybe, and I know you gave a few of them with talking about just online, but what are some other things that people could look for?
As far as just
Like,
con artists altogether or dating?
it doesn't have to be dating. I would say altogether. Just open it up. Like anything. I would say, I'm sure you see a pattern where people come to you because there were certain warning signs or certain things that, just didn't seem right. So are there any that jump out at you that seem to be a pretty common pattern of why people hire you?
Normally people hire me because things are going south, right? And or there's that inkling that we talked about a moment ago, that itch that they just kind of want to scratch and see what's going on. So as far as that's concerned, I would say definitely go with your instincts. If something's telling you, like, little spidey senses tingling and saying, hey, there's something else going on here, then yeah, definitely check into that. As far as like identifying fraudsters with, or even in that scope, for some reason, what stands out to me is if it's just too good to be true. If he or she is just too good to be true. Same thing with money. If the investment is just too good to be true, whether Bitcoin, by the way, all of Bitcoin, there's two types of Bitcoin people: those that are getting screwed and those that are going to get screwed. So stay out of all that. So, but
I have crypto. That's why I'm making a face, because I have crypto.
okay, then great. Hold on to it and then do what you got to do, but don't invest with anybody else. Don't move it around. Don't, none of that. It's the biggest con of the century. If you've got good money on it, maybe just consider getting out. But so for me, identifying, are those red flags? Is it too good to be true? And then honestly, for you, you'll have picked up your own red flags, and then just go with those instincts. Maybe they're like, their work doesn't add up, or their finances don't add up, or there's big gaps in time. And then maybe the gaslighting, that's kind of a big one. It's not me, it's you. The gaslighting's kind of a big deal. So whatever your little spidey senses are telling you, just listen.
Yeah, that's perfect. I think that's really it's for anybody, because most people, if not all people, are going to have those little spidey senses. And sometimes we've been trained to be the nice person. Don't ever think badly about somebody. How dare you think that about somebody? How could you? But these thoughts just keep coming up over and over and over again. And you're having a hard time pushing them down, because you just can't help it. There's something that just seems off. So I remember just being raised as be the nice girl all the time and don't ever think badly about somebody. And how dare you if you do, which brings a lot of shame. But I tell you, you get slapped across the face a few times with these manipulators, and you change your ways. You're okay not being the, trust everybody nice person anymore.
Yeah, I'm sure, and like sadly in the end for you, you just had that reflection back of like, oh my gosh, this and then oh that and that. I'm sure you two compared notes.
We did, and I think for me it was more you you should have I should have done something. So you're kind of feeling that shame and the guilt of kind of how stupid could I be? But then you have this other person, we call her Jane, who he was leading the double life with, and she even did a background check. I did all this stuff. I did all this right stuff. So there's that kind of thing, and bringing this person into her home and letting him kind of create that family, part of her family with him, with her. So many emotions went in this that it was just really bizarre. Someone who really thought she took the right steps, and then me thinking, "He wouldn't have cheated on me." I mean, no offense, he wasn't this gorgeous hunk of a guy. It was just I thought he was down to earth, and he wooed me by immersing himself into my life and taking my kids to practices of their different sporting events. It was one of those things that a lot of us did just sit back. How could I have not seen that? That woulda, shoulda, coulda, that you shouldn't go there, but you do. And then you're like, talking about it, being open about it, and, like, even having someone like you here talking about these types of things really does shed light of how people really could be, even though we don't think they could do it. And unfortunately, we almost have to think the worst to really be
You know,
open.
and so then this is what I'm hearing from you. Like, you're looking back and saying, "Gosh, I should have done something." Now, you are doing something. You're taking your experience and your power and strength with that, and now you made the big first move. You helped Jane, and then now you have this show. This is a topic that really isn't touched on, and and I think it is valuable. Men and women both need to hear about toxic relationships. I can't tell you how often I've dealt with gentlemen that are in a toxic relationship and where the woman was the gaslighter, the mastermind, the one with the strength and the power in the relationship. So, I mean, this is something that goes both ways, and it's a valuable topic that needs to be discussed. So I think you are doing something about it.
And I agree, and I think that has been a big impact, and I have to say that I was very excited when I saw you were coming because this is a huge conversation. Like you said, this particular topic has to be talked about more and more and more. And being the kind of people where we need to be more diligent, or as my dad would say, more assertive to possibly invest that money into having someone looked into. And I mean, you're like, well, you shouldn't have to look into me because I'm a cool person. I'm pretty black and white, and what you see is what you get. But that's why it's so hard for people like us to really absorb the fact that people aren't like that, and that you really have to you have to protect your environment, your peace, your safe place. And I think you hit really well as just now, just saying, yes, I think that's why Deana and I are very passionate about this, because it's our pain, our devastation, whatever you wanna call it. If we protect one other person or give knowledge to one other woman, man too, then I feel like that this didn't go in vain. There's possible to protect many in this
Oh,
situation.
yeah, exactly. I think your dad nailed something, right? When he was talking about being more assertive. And I think the reason why these narcissists are able to kind of get away with this, because this is what the person isn't recognizing, is that they're broken down over time, right? They're coming in sweet. You're seeing the this side of them, and then over time, it's a little nudge here, a little gaslight there, another little touch here that builds and builds and builds. And what the person doesn't recognize is that they're broken down. They're now a shell of like who they used to be, and they're not assertive. They're broken down, and so it's very difficult for that person to then come back around and say, okay, so I need help. And then also, then who's going to help them, right? Is it going to be family? Is it going to be a therapist? Is it going to be a private investigator? And then the next step is, are they then going to listen to that professional, whether it's a therapist or a private investigator or like a very caring like family member? Because again, don't forget, they've been broken down over time. So for me, outside looking in, when that person is at that point, the more difficult thing is to get them to listen to that person that that new confidant that they have, and take that word for value, which is very difficult for these people. Obviously, they've been broken down, they have trust issues, and it's very hard. And then that narcissist has that image of strength and power over them. So it's very hard for them to say, okay, so this is what the private investigator found, or okay, this is what the therapists tell me, or my loved ones, or whether it's family, friends, whatever, is telling me, and how to kind of regain that. It's very difficult. So they have to believe in that, trust themselves, trust the confidant and or the professional that's like helping them.
Yeah, well said. Well said, Ken. Thank you. So I think we're getting kind of to the end, but I mean, I wish I could spend a whole nother podcast because I want to ask you all about the whole crypto thing, the busts, all the busts you've done and been involved in, and people going after you.
Yeah.
So meanwhile, can you just tell our audience where to find you?
Yeah, certainly. Thank you, first off. And certainly you could just simply Google Los Angeles Private Investigator, Ken Childs, or Paramount Investigative Services, and we'll obviously the Google machine will deliver us up to you.
Perfect. Okay. Well, great, Ken. Thank you so much for your time today. It has been absolutely invaluable to hear from somebody that takes care of the things that we wish we had. We wish we had those tools way back when, and just meeting somebody that does this for a living is great. And we really appreciate your time today.
Thank
Absolutely.
you.
Yeah,
Thank
thank
you.
you.
You both have a wonderful day, and I'll look forward to our next show of Stories with Ken Child.
Sure.
We look
Ken
forward to
Child.
it, Kitty.
Unbelievable stories with Ken Child.
Yeah. Have a wonderful evening.
If today's episode helped you see the signs more clearly, please like, share, and subscribe this conversations so our message can reach others who may need to hear it. Together, we can help more people recognize the red flags, reclaim their strength, and rebuild with clarity. Until next time, stay strong and stay discerning.